So you have the Confessional Musical. It's hitting theaters February 20th. It's a Fathom event. What attracted you to a musical? I'm really interested to hear.
You know, for one thing, a lot of people may not know this, and sorry about the dog in the background. I'm not
Oh,
killing
that's
any
okay.
animals. No animal was hurt for this interview. Um, Although there will be after this is over. I was a theater arts major, and I was in all kinds of musical theater and plays and all of that in college. Even community theater as a kid, my mother would drag me to every audition, that there was. That was my beginning interest in performing. And I fell in love with comedy because of Minnie Pearl, which is, not a common name much anymore, sadly, but she was an iconic figure in Nashville, Tennessee, and I loved her very much. And she was a great introduction to comedy, and so that did it for me. And so for 30 years, I've been busting it on the road and doing what I do and loving what I do. But when it came up, someone approaches you, with a script. I had so many dear friends involved in this. The one who wrote the screenplay, Martha Bolton, is an old friend. Dan Postma, one of the executive producers, was my first A&R guy when I was on Word Records. It was called Murr Records back then. That really dates me. But yeah. And so I was on Murr with him, and he was always proud of my abilities, as he says, and my singing. And this is certainly out of the box when it comes to singing because I'm still trying to be a goofy character, and channel my Cindy Patty voice, but it was so much fun. But I want to tell you something, it was the hardest work. One,
Yeah, well, a stage play is hard. A stage play is, and that's the thing, like, so people understand this is a play on stage that is going to theaters, which is
yeah.
really, really unique. What would you say for you? Every project has this sort of element of wanting people to walk away with something. What is that big takeaway for this?
One thing I believe, there's some personal things for me. There are elements in this story that will affect probably every life out there. Even though it says it's an Amish musical, which I always think that's hilarious. The Amish will never see this, and it's a shame because they would do really well if they would see it. The stories, the rejection, which is found in a shunning. You'll find out about that. The looking for a daughter, the child that runs away, that the brokenhearted mothers. There's the jerk of the boss, which is John Snyder, and I don't mind saying that. I hope he sees this. And those elements. Probably the biggest thing people laugh at that I play a housekeeper because I'm really bad at that in real life.
You wouldn't say cleaning is a strong suit for you.
Just not.
No.
I've been on the road too much. My kids have learned how to, find the cereal themselves, usually under the couch in pieces.
So listen, you have done so much. You have had a long-standing career in comedy and acting and all these other fun things that you're doing. I love that you iterate and do new things, and but that background is interesting because I didn't know that about musical theater and
Yeah.
all the auditions you went on. But let's talk about comedy for a minute. You've been in this game for a long time. What keeps you going in comedy?
Um, well, I'm on Geritol now, and so that's helpful. I got new meds for my thyroid and a brand new antidepressants. That's awesome. Isn't every comedian on something? You know what I mean? I fell in love with that art because of any medium out there. You can say a lot. And how I get by with some of the things that I say. I am waiting to be canceled. I would love to be canceled. You know what I mean? I don't know why they haven't found me yet. The funniest thing is, I got this award. It's been a while now, but they had a big party for me, and the RIAI, the people that give you gold records and platinum records, they gave me an award as the most awarded female comic in history. I was shocked. I even whispered to the guy, there's Ellen DeGeneres and Chelsea Handler and Whoopi Goldberg. He goes, I know, we did the math twice because we've never heard of you.
But people have, I mean, you've had this amazing career, and I think this is interesting, right? Because the type of comedy you do, you're a Christian, right? You're not
Yeah.
raunchy, you're not out there saying things that are horrific about other people or cursing.
Well,
And
kind of a little bit.
no, but
I
you
try not to cuss, but I do talk about people.
but you do it in a way that comports with your faith, right? Like, and who you are. It's
Right.
not what so much of comedy is. Why do you think that so much of that gets attention, right? That kind of comedy, when here you are, the most awarded female
Yeah.
comedian, you've had this crazy career. Clearly people want what you do. Why is it that the other stuff is elevated so much?
Satan is one reason.
It's right. I mean, it's funny, but it's true.
It's
It's
true.
true.
Where there is light, there will always be dark trying to snuff it out. You know what I mean? And so that is just, I talk to God about that one. I don't know. And I would
That'll be
really,
my next interview,
yes,
Chonda. That's it. Yeah.
and I'll please send me a link. I have some things to ask him. Um, I am I am saddened sometimes to be 31, 32 years into a career that I feel like I've hit a lot of brick walls, sometimes on purpose. The doors were just slammed. And at the same time, I have to recognize, I got this is a long answer, for a
Go for it. Long
question.
answers are okay.
Okay, good. I got this manager came along about 15 years ago, and he managed Billy Crystal and Robin Williams, and his firm found David Letterman and some also very raunchy comics, in their corral, and they became interested in me. And I think Andrew Tenenbaum's goal was this doesn't make sense. You sell more tickets. You've been in a ton of things. You've got more platinum and gold records than anybody, and nobody's heard of you. I want to change that. And for 15 years, he can barely change it. And he also bangs his head against the wall going, I don't get it. I wanted to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry someday. I don't know that I will. The sadly, I think, and I don't know that it's because I'm Christian. I think it's because most of my work has been in the Christian market. And some would say, yes, I played it safe. And people would ask me constantly, why do you call yourself a Christian comedian? And I go, well, with my background and what I know about Christianity, I was really thrilled to find out I'm not going to hell. And so I thought it was a great I thought it was a great title. I didn't know it was going to be this, offensive thing or divisive. And at the same time, let's be honest, Billy, uh, Christianity is divisive. You're either in or you're either out.
Right. Right.
And
Jesus makes that pretty clear throughout the
yeah,
scriptures, right?
fix that. And that's not my fault. But I think just the very fact that I am Christian, it frightens a room of people. I've worked a couple of comedy clubs. I've probably been in this many comedy clubs in my entire 32 years. You know what I mean?
Which is incredible considering how much you do.
A couple of them were a challenge. One was I wasn't a Christian and a little inebriated, so that helped the nerves. And and people ask me, why don't you do comedy clubs? I go, I get too thirsty, so I don't go in there. It's a boundary for me. But for the most part, at this part in my career, when I step out on a stage and I do something where they say, please don't do the serious stuff or please don't talk about Jesus, I leave there feeling completely unfulfilled. It's just not a part of my calling. And for me, my job is not just a job. I use it to uplift the name of Christ. I would love to not use it for that because there are some things I'd love to say. But I somehow get by with probably more than most Christian comedians. And I've lost a lot of fans, sometimes because of my politics. At this
Which you are also open about.
I am open about it.
Yeah.
And, I get frustrated at the Christian artists who are not. To me, I think that I call them fence riders. They don't want to lose a fan. And I'm like, really? Then you need to get more fans because we're at a stage in our lives where we've got to get really used to being bold. And I don't have to get used to it because I've been that way since day one. Kind of throwing a mirror up in front of the church a lot. I'd probably pick on church people more than most and criticize them more than most. But I can get by with it because I am one.
Well, I was going to say, and being
Bill Maher cannot.
introspective,
Bill
but
Maher
being
can't get by with it. Yeah.
and being introspective about our faith and the institutions within our faith is actually a really healthy thing to do, right? Whether we're poking fun at it because there are funny things, right? Which there are. Anybody who reads the Babylon Bee knows there are funny things that go on within the
I
church.
love those guys. I love those guys.
Well, they're hilarious, but
I don't know who they are, but I bet they are preachers' kids that got ticked off at somebody.
that is a wonderful theory. We're gonna have to find that out. But it's interesting because in addition to being open about politics and who you are, you've also been really vulnerable and open about serious things in your life. The loss of your husband. You made a documentary years ago about that. Is that hard, or what is that like? I guess to open up in that way on those very personal things when you're a comedian.
The bottom line is, I decided that I have to work instead of working through it and all that going on in the past, in my head. Might as well spew it because I feel like I'm as ordinary as a woman is ordinary. Um, I'm not a head turner, to walk in a restaurant. I'm not a Kardashian, whatever. This interview right now is going to ruin my dating life because my hair flopped. So all that to say, I feel like if I'm going through something, then I bet somebody in that audience is too. If I hit menopause and got really, really depressed, I bet you there's 85% of the women in here feeling the same way. We should just talk about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And since I have a profound faith in Christ, who I know it sounds silly and cliche, I just think he's the answer to everything.
No, it's the truth, though. I mean,
They-
whether people think it's cliche or not, that is the truth, and we know that as believers.
If you really feel like in the depths of your being that you have a nugget that could change things for people, would you not share it? Especially when all of a sudden you have 3 or 4 thousand people sitting in front of you every night. I just have to. And it's my calling. It's all our callings as a Christian. And at the same time, I totally get comics who don't want to talk about their faith and their private life and all that, and they think that's all personal. I just feel like when we get to the pearly gates, we can't tell St. Peter, I'm sorry, my faith is personal. I'd rather not share it, because he would go, okay, well, you can't come in then.
The gates are locked.
There's a personal space for you somewhere else. Yeah.
No, it is really interesting, though. I think because of all the divisiveness and chaos, people are really hesitant to speak up. They're really hesitant to say what they believe on different issues, or, and there's a way to speak truth in love. But I think a lot of people have retreated from all of it into this sort of silence, right? Which doesn't help anybody.
It gets me about politics sometimes. And I know politics are so divisive. And the orange hair guy was a hateful, weirdo person. But the alternative was, we're in a culture right now that death is no big deal. A guy will shoot you, cops will beat you up and kill you and not think anything of it. Where does that come from? One, a very dark side of life. But two, we've been conditioned since children that you can get rid of a baby. Death is no big deal. So when that seed is planted in the universe, what's that going to grow? It's going to grow bitter, angry ugliness, you know what I mean? And people that'll kill you and not think anything of it. So I feel like we're at a place, and maybe some of my Christian artists will get this, that when you have an opportunity and when you have a platform to speak up, instead of being afraid of losing a fan, start being excited that you could change someone's mind.
I love that. And I think it's so true. And when you have a platform and the ability, as long as you're doing it, again, you speak hard truths, you do it with love, you don't attack, you don't go after people, and you don't do that, right? It's one thing to tell the truth. It's another thing to attack people viciously for no reason, right?
And that's the great thing about comedy. Done well, they'll chuckle at themselves. If it's done well, you know what I mean?
Right.
So my preacher convicts me all the time. Now that's my spiritual problem, but because usually I'm up to no good and I need to get straightened. Dog.
Speaking of being up to no good,
we couldn't have cats. They never bark.
Oh man. So, I have to ask you this as we sort of round out to a close, because you've given me a lot of time and I always love getting to chat with you. What what for you was sort of the moment that you realized, because you talked about the acting and all of that, but that you were really funny, like you were going to make something of this funniness?
Well, probably when my mother stopped whooping me, and I will take that out on Murphy when this is over. But Murphy, hush. I have no control over my children or my dogs. I think for me, when I really started getting paid, I know that sounds crazy, but when people really invited me, I remember hearing the term, "Oh, so you're a comic?" And I'm like, "Yes, can I say that?" Because I felt like, wow, that's official. You know what I mean? That's really official. There are times I laugh at myself. What I love right now at this phase in my career, I love bombing because I don't care. I am so trying to get out of this job. I started it 32 years ago. Someone please tell me how to quit. And I walk out on a stage these days, and the first thing out of my mouth is, stop buying tickets. I am trying to retire. Stop.
I want to be done.
I want to be done. I want to do more movies. I want to do something else. I want to kill dogs for a living.
I love, you know what? This just makes it so much better because you're always such a fun interview. The dogs are part of it. I always love getting to talk to you because you never know what you're going to say and what's going to happen. And so
never live alone and try to do it. This is like, well, if I had cats, that would even be like the sad old woman with a bunch of cats. But at least I'm living alone with dogs.
And that's not a bad thing. Dogs are a lot of fun. Well, listen, the
I'm
movie,
leaving the room so they will leave me alone, but they keep following me. Why do
that's what they do. And then they bark at you. Well, I'm so excited for the Confessional Musical. Again, it hits February 20th. It's a Fathom event. Chonda, thanks for your time as always. Really appreciate it.
I am so sorry about the chaos, but you guys really got to see this musical. It's really great. And not just because I'm in it.
It is really great. It is February 20th. Thanks so much.
Thank you, my friend.